Hello everybody. Now I want to ask you one simple question. I want you to go back in 2010, that is 12 years past, and I want to ask you one question. What are the things that you can buy from this 10 rupee note? Now your answer may be that you can buy from this 10 rupee note a particular only 2-3 pieces of samosa, or maybe even 6 to 8 pieces of pani puri, or even 2 pieces of vada pav. But now I want to manipulate the same question. I want you to come back in this present year in 2022. I want to ask the same questions. What are the things that you can buy from this 10 rupee note in 2022? Now your answer may be different. You may say that from this 10 rupee note, I can only buy only one piece of samosa, maybe one piece of vada pav, and only 2 to 3 or maybe 4 pieces of pani puri. Why does all this happen? Why does that? As the time passes, the cost of living increases. As the time passes, this same 10 rupee notes, in this same 10 rupees denomination has the decreasing, has the depreciate value. Now, this phenomenon, ladies and gentlemen, is known as inflation. In definitive terms, inflation is defined as the decline in the purchasing power of your currency as the cost of living goes up. Now, as your cost of living goes up, as the time increases, as the time passes by, the rate of the things or the price of the things increases. This is known as inflation. This is the reason why the thing that you bought 10 years back was so much cheaper as compared to the 10 years now and compared to the present time. That's why things are most expensive right now. Let me now clear this phenomenon of inflation with another example. There might be a maid that might be working in your house, right? Now, as soon as you appointed that maid might have done this commitment that every year her price of cleaning the house and cleaning the utensils will increase, because she know that every year the rate on the prices of substances gets increased. Every year the cost of living gets increased. So therefore, her remuneration, her salary might also get increased every year. She is smart. Your maid is smart because she knows the phenomena of inflation. Now, as you know the real definition of inflation, I want to tell you what are the reasons and what are the factors through which inflation causes. Number first reason for the cause of inflation is the cost push inflation. Cost push inflation is a phenomena in which the rate or the prices of the substances increases as the cost of business increases. The basic example for this cost push inflation is that in the petrol price hike. Let's say, for example, the price of petrol gets increased. Now the question might be how this increase in the rate of petrol might affect your cost of living. The answer is very simple. With increase in the rate of petrol, the increase in the transportation cost increases. The increase in the auto rickshaw, the increase in the transportation and the business cost increases. The increase in the delivery charges increases, right? Because whenever the delivery boy just delivers some parcel in front of your door, then it costs the petrol, right? It costs the petrol, and therefore increasing the price of petrol will increase the rate of delivery charge per parcel. So therefore, you will say that, oh my God, delivery charge also gets increased, and that is the basic common factor as to why the price of the petrol increases. As the price of petrol increases, the cost of business, the cost of shipment, the cost of transportation, which is directly or indirectly related to the cost of petrol, gets increased. Therefore, this is known as the cost push inflation. Number two reason for increased inflation is the demand inflation. Demand inflation is the phenomena in which the rate of the substances, the rate or the price of the substances increases as the demand of that particular substances increases. For example, the rate of vegetables or the rate of gold market increases as the demand increases. Right? There is a policy known as the demand and supply policy. It says that as when the supply of the any substance is low, but as compared to that, the demand of this particular substance is high. Therefore, the rate must go higher so that in order to match this demand and supply policy. This is very much important to know about the inflation rates. Okay? That's why the rate of gold prices gets higher. That's the reason why rates of vegetables gets higher. That's the reason why rates of pulses, dal, vegetables, and rices, and all other things like petrol, diesel, and all the things, all of the various other things that are involved in the daily activities gets higher. This is because of the demand inflation. And the third reason for the increase in inflation is the printing excess money. Now, when I was a child, I always wondered as to why government can't even print the unlimited currencies, right? I was thinking that since government and RBI control the print of excess money, why didn't the government just print excess money so that in order to eradicate the poverty in the country? But I was wrong. When the government will increase and print the maximum amount of currency, inflation will increase up to a certain height. And that is very important to note. This is a very common example that if the government will increase the rate of printing excess money, then the inflation rate will higher. The reason for this is because Since the resources in this country is limited, but the population is keep on increasing. Since the population is keep on exploding, now if the government will print the excess amount of money, the rate of the things is sought to go higher and higher in order to meet the demand and supply policy, right? So this is the reason why printing excess money is bad for the inflation, why the printing excess money is bad for GDP of the country, and that is very important factor to note about inflation. Now, knowing about the inflation and knowing about the reasons which causes the inflation, now you might have been the question, a very basic question in your mind as to why should you care about the inflation? The answer is that you must give a shit about inflation. You must care about inflation. This is very important for you to care about inflation. I tell you why. See, what happens is that let's suppose you have 1 lakh of rupees idle cash available, right? Now you decided to put this 1 lakh idle cash into bank account so that you can get interest from the bank, right? The normal interest in the India, I can talk about the normal interest rate in banks is about 6 to 5%, right? 5 to 6%, maybe 6.5%. But do you know that in the average inflation rate in India is over 6 to 7.4%, and therefore when your interest in the bank will increase about 4 to 5 or 6%, this will not able to cope up with inflation, and therefore your money will started to diminish. Maybe after 30 years, if you just withdraw that same 1 lakh rupee cash, that might not be 1 lakh rupees. That sum and that principal amount will be only 40,000 rupees. Now where is the 60,000 rupees? This is because of the inflation. You have to cope up with inflation, and that is very important for you to cope up with inflation, because if you do not cope up with inflation, if you do not match the inflation rate in India, then your money will start to diminish, your money and your savings all will start to diminish, and you will be bankrupted. Now the next part of the video is what methods can you all apply to save from inflation? What methods can you apply to cope up with inflation? Now as it turns out, the very basic methods to cope up with inflation are investing. When you invest your money, you can get an annual return about 10 to 12%. That is very average rate of return, and when you invest in some kind of a funds, and therefore you can easily cope up with inflation. Some of the best ways and the fundamental ways to invest is to invest in stock markets, to invest in S&P index fund, is to invest in Nifty 50 and Sensex, or is to invest in your money in mutual funds, because mutual funds gives you around 12 to 30% of annual interest rate, which is very much suitable to cope up with inflation. And the next is to you can invest your money in real estate businesses, because real estate businesses are also rising up very quickly, and therefore you can cope up with inflation very easily, and therefore you can make more money, you can grow more money. And the next method to just cope up with inflation is to invest in cryptos, although it's not recommended that much for beginners, because crypto investing is very much fluctuated, and that's not very risky. That's very risky investment, meant to be very risky investment. So I would not recommend to invest in cryptos, but you can invest though, making your own decisions. And there are also many methods that, from which you can earn passive income as well. That may be also termed as investment, right? So you can apply these methods. You can search them on Google and internet, and you have to know all about these things just in order to cope up with inflation, and that is very important for you to cope up with inflation so that you can live a very healthy and wealthy life. So that is it for today, guys. I hope that you understand what is the phenomena of inflation, how the inflation occurs, what are the reasons for inflation, and how can you cope up with inflation, what are the reasons and what are the methods that you can apply to cope up with inflation. I hope that this video has given you a right amount of value and the direction to invest your money and to know about inflation. If you like this video, please hit the like button and share, subscribe to my channel. I will keep on bringing these kinds of videos again and again. Till then, I will see you again next time. Bye. Take care.